Hi everybody, welcome back. For today's video, I wanted to give some tips about how to take notes in college that have helped me. Now, if your goal is to just pass the class and stuff, maybe you don't even have to do what I'm going to tell you. But if you want that A, this tip that I'm going to give you all really helps. I like to get some folders and notebooks. I am all about color coding. I feel like that just helps out so much. For example, black and black, right? So then a black notebook with a black folder, and that means that's one class. Usually I take about 3 classes. It is a quarter system, so they go by super quick. Usually try to only take 3 classes. I've taken 4 classes and they are very doable. However, you get just more free time, taking 3, and you get to enjoy the classes even more. But anyways, I just like to color code notebooks with folders, and then that means that one class will be class is going to be the light blue, another class is going to be the yellow, and so on, right? And that's what I like to do. On the folders, on the left side, I usually keep my syllabus and then any work that I have to do or readings. So a lot of the time, if you have a class where you have to do a lot of readings and you have to print out the readings, which by the way, I can also do a video about like where you can go and get free printing at UCLA specifically, but you should look into your own college. Maybe they have free printing resources for you as well. So yeah, usually I would print the readings and I will put them on this side, right, along with my syllabus, and then on this side I would just put like whatever I have finished. So like if I already finished the readings, I put it here, because they don't usually give you worksheets or stuff like that. But like let's say they give you like an essay to write, and they give you like a handout of the essay, and then once you complete it you can move it on to the side. I just think it helps to keep you organized and just kind of know what you have left to do. Now, a lot of the classes that do give you so many readings, like I end up with big thick packets full of readings. By the end of the quarter, obviously they're not going to fit in the folder, so I get the reading, I read it, and I'm reading it, and then I move it over, and then I just keep the last few readings, because during discussion or like during a class or something, you go over and you go over the readings or whatever. And basically I like to just keep them like in my dorm and stuff when I know I'm not going to pull them out, other than like when you're going to study or write essays, maybe you're going to have to pull them all back up. But if not, I just keep the most recent ones, and then I just kind of like filter them out, That's what I do with the folders. That's why I use the folders. I actually don't always use the notebooks, okay? So this is the thing. If I'm taking a class where there are no in-class exams, I love those. I would rather write 20 pages of an essay than go and take an in-class exam, which I usually have a mixture of them. Because in-class exams, like, they get me feeling super pressured, because of the time and just everything, and then just the environment. It's very like competitive sometimes, and it's just, I like my time and I like to do things the way I do them. But so for example, if I look at the syllabus, that's my number 1 tip, is look at the syllabus, right? If it says that all your assignments and everything are take-home, like take-home exams and stuff, then I will not use a notebook. The reason for that is because I will type it up on my computer, and I just open up a Word document and I'll just start typing on my notes, right? I'll type my notes. I go to a lecture, type my notes. Go to discussion, type my notes. Do the readings, type my notes. Everything's typed up, so that whenever I'm gonna go back and write a paper, which would be for like a final or a midterm or whatever it is, once again, I love doing those just because I feel like I learn even more through doing papers than actually like taking exams. Anyways, not the point. So basically, if I do that, then I just open up the Word document, and sometimes I'll split them up by weeks. If the lectures are really long, then I'll just split them up by weeks. But if I feel like I can just fill everything in within 1 quarter within a Word document, obviously it's going to be long, but that way whenever you like do the Control F where you search a word, that way like where the notes of that author were, where the notes of that subject or concept were at, and it's just all super easy, right? Now, If I have a class where I do have an in-class exam, I will use a notebook, because for me, and I've heard for many people, when you write stuff down, it gets more engraved in your brain. If you want to try to kind of like be tested on it, or you want to recall, it's much better if you write it down, right? So if I know that it's a class that I'm gonna have to like need that information later on for sure, and have to be looking through my notes constantly, then I will do a notebook, because I don't want my eyesight to get that bad. I actually switched majors, as I have mentioned before, and honestly, like, my eyesight, it's still really good. Like, I can see, I can read far away, but it's not as perfect as it used to be, just because I spend so much time on the computer doing my readings on the computer, or like assignments on the computer. So I usually do try to print my readings, or I try to take notes through my notebook. But if I know I'm going to be writing essays for the entire class, I'm like, you know what, whatever. Oh, and I also got some glasses, which I could do a review if you all would like to see, that protects your eyes from the screen, and honestly, like, they're very helpful. Anyways, so let's say I am gonna take notes on a notebook, right? What I do is, on every single notebook, right here, I put in the office hours of my professor and the office hours of my TA. Please, if you really want the A, you should really go to see your TA at least once a quarter, and maybe your professor if they're involved with the grading at all. Not to like go and kiss their butt or whatever, but just to get to kind of know what they're asking for. If they grade you a certain way, you can be like, hey, I got this score, can I see like what I can do next time to improve? And it has happened to me where they're like, okay, let me read what I graded you on, and they'll be like, you know what, after like reading everything that I have read and now reading back at your response or whatever it was, I realized that I should have given you a higher grade. And then they'll give you a higher grade. So honestly, that's a big tip. Like, had I known that, I would have done that like since the beginning of my college, but I barely started doing that this year, and I started like seeing those results, and I'm like, whoa, you know, it makes a difference in your grade. Maybe it's not like a crazy difference, because you do have to put in all kinds of work, but it helps. Okay, that's the first thing that I do, right? And then I basically I'm always drawing, I'm always doodling, so my notes always look pretty crazy. Whenever it's gonna be a lecture, I put like lecture, or when it's gonna be a discussion, I put discussion, right? And so on. That way I know, like, I can kind of recall where I learned things. So if I remember I was learning that in lecture, but I want to like run my head through it again, and then I go back and I'm like, okay, here's my lecture notes, right? And then here's my discussion notes and stuff like that. So there's some classes that I have taken where it's like part of your class is going to be taking in-class exams or in-class quizzes. Part of them is going to be writing papers. Most of my classes are like that. They're a mixture, that they're usually not just all one single thing. So usually I am using notebooks very often. And then whenever I go back, if like, let's say I'm gonna have a quiz on this reading, I go back through my lecture notes and my discussion notes, and I highlight anything I like on the side. Like, let's say this whole section right here was pure stuff about reading, right? About a book or whatever you want to call it. Then I will go ahead and highlight, like along the line right here, I'll put like blue or whatever color I usually indicate my readings to be. Because during lecture and discussion, they may talk about the readings, and sometimes they don't even mention them at all, and you will still be tested on them. So it just depends, and it varies. Whenever I'm going through notes or whenever I'm writing essays, I like to highlight things, like to make sure you bring up this point in the essay, make sure you bring up this point in the essay. And honestly, it just makes everything so much easier. I always type up my papers and stuff super last minute. Like, I procrastinate on my papers, but I do it because I know that I type way better essays last minute. Not a lot of people are like that, so don't do that. If like you are the type of person that needs to type something, go back and edit, do another draft of it, and then another. Like, if you feel like that helps you more, go for it. But for me, my brain works this way. Like, okay, Diana, you have no time to waste. This is due in like tomorrow or 2 or 3 days, whatever. you're not gonna have time to go back and edit. Nope, you're not. So get that thing done and no mistakes at all. So that's how I usually go about it. Usually I'll send my sister what I typed up, and I'll be like, hey, can you like edit the essay? Obviously she's not in the class, obviously she doesn't know what I'm talking about, but that also helps me to make sure that I'm getting all my points across and that I don't have like grammar errors. And so if she's able to, she will do that, or if not, sometimes I will read it and sometimes I just turn it in. Lowest paper grade I have gotten in college, I think, is like a B minus, and that all in itself is a whole long story. I love to write. I complain about it sometimes because it's like, oh my gosh, but it's my fault that I put it last minute. Or sometimes they do only give you like a week to type up like a freaking long paper. But at the end of the day, you know how you work best, right? So yeah, that's what I do. And I also always put the date, because sometimes you're typing a paper and you got something from the lecture, you have to cite it, and obviously like you need the lectures, the date of the lecture. Sometimes they just ask for the month. It just depends what format you're citing. And also, like, if you are in a STEM major, which is like science, technology, engineering, mathematics, those kind of majors, this actually would help. I wish I would have known about this whole like technique before, and the way I would go about that is like put in all the papers that you do, because a lot of the time I remember like being a math major, I would always have to turn in physical work and do my problems all on one side, and this would also help me. Oh, by the way, okay, let me just go back and say that also I would put in like my graded stuff here. So like if I got my midterm back or my handouts back, I would put them here, and that way whenever I would be studying for like my final or something, I can always go back and look at the problems that I did, what I did wrong, how to like which mistakes I commonly made, so I could fix it. That I feel like that would really help you all. And even doing problems over and over, I feel like when I was in a math major, doing problems over and over, like similar problems, it just kind of took a lot of practice and really understanding the concepts. The biggest thing about color coding, how you pair your notebooks with your folders, is, let's say you only have whatever you have for your black folder notebook. Let's say you have that class on Mondays and Wednesdays, then you only have to take this in your backpack on Mondays and Wednesdays, and that way you don't have to be carrying big all kinds of notebooks in your backpack every single day that you go to class. And sometimes, you know, you have class like Monday through Thursday, or just like twice a week, or whatever it is, you know. I think that helps. Of course, if you're gonna have a long day like on Monday and Wednesday and you still want to take all your notebooks, by all means take them all. But I just find it super useful to do it that way. It has happened, however, where I'm just super like I'll get up, right? I'll wake up and I'm like, oh shoot, I have class. I need to get up, brush my teeth, and just shove everything in my backpack and head out, because I don't have time to be wasting. I'm still kind of like toda modora, you know, which means like you're kind of like, you just woke up and you're kind of like out of it. And basically what I do is I just grab everything, and sometimes I'll forget some notebooks, so that does suck. But then all I have to do is just type up new notes or use a different notebook and do the notes, and then transfer them back. And honestly, transferring notes back really helps. It, if you have the time, do it. I would definitely recommend doing it. Things really do stick to your head that way, and I have the worst memory on earth, so that's why I feel like this helps me. And yeah, basically those are my tips. Along with the, sorry, I keep going back and forth, but along with the whole taking notes, I basically write like the big concept, and then any little details that the lecturer is going over, or in your discussion that your TA is going over. And then like if they do examples, I'll put it like, oh, examples, but like it's kind of like I do bullets, right? So like I do big bullets on big concepts, whatever details fell under in smaller bullets, and then even smaller and more to the side bullets if it's just like examples or just random little thoughts that they say. If any of you have any questions, please let me know. Like, there's so much that I have learned going through college. It's nothing like high school. I freaking love it, but it is super stressful. But at the same time, you can do it, and I know you can do it. And I know that so many of us are constantly discouraged from going to college, and they're like, oh, you know, you should have learned that in high school. Oh my gosh, like, you're so like this and that. You know, I've heard it all where like people ask like, what kind of education did you have? You know, like, you should have freaking learned that in high school. Oh my gosh. And it's just like, at the end of the day, sometimes it's not even your issue, and sometimes you're not even doing as bad because it's your fault, but it's because the teachers that you have had in the past failed to teach you right. And that's not on you, but you have to like work even harder than those people who were privileged enough to have amazing teachers. And not to say that I didn't have amazing teachers, because I had some pretty freaking amazing teachers, but I know there were some areas where like my teachers did lack and stuff. Some of my teachers, you know, they didn't even care and stuff, and I just feel that you can do it, and I know that you can do it. And sometimes you're gonna freaking break down and, you know, feel like it's the end of the world when you like get a bad score on an exam or something, but you get back up and you believe in yourself and you try so hard to do it. And I know that sometimes it's kind of like discouraging when you see how privileged other people are and how much more they have. Like, they have their private tutors, they have like people that they pay to do their freaking assignments, or like all these crazy things that it's like, I don't have that kind of money, and I wouldn't pay somebody to do my work, but it's kind of like I don't have the kind of money to hire a private tutor to be teaching every single thing, or like to be editing my essays perfectly, like top notch and stuff. Like, I don't have that, so I have to work with what I got, and you have to work with what you got. Once you do like accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish, and this goes with like whatever aspect of your life, and you go through so much crap to get there, it is super rewarding. And I honestly am super grateful for all the challenging classes and all the crazy crap that I've gone through, because it makes me feel like I'm living for a freaking reason, and that I'm being productive with my life, and it just gives a meaning. And before, like long time ago, I never felt this way. I felt like, what am I doing in life? Like, I felt super motivated. I felt like my life deserved to end, and that it should end, and I always wanted it to end. But at the end of the day, you have to just push through and get to where you wouldn't even ever imagine getting to. And honestly, once you get to a certain level of like, I don't want to say success, but just of like accomplishing something, you just keep adding more goals into your life, and then like later on you accomplish so much, and you look back and you're like, wait, I did that. And had you looked at yourself as a little kid, you would have probably not even imagined that you would ever get that far. So yeah, and sometimes we make it to spaces that were not created for us. You really think that like these big freaking universities and like people of so much power were really thinking of us, you know, or like of people. I don't want to get into like political stuff, but like sometimes I look and I'm like, wow, this really wasn't made for somebody who came from a little town in Mexico. You know, like, you see that, and you see it in the system, you know, you see it in so many ways. But you have to make a stand. Like, you have to put your foot down and be like, no, I am here for a reason. Somebody put me here for a reason, and I'm going to not disappoint my people, disappoint myself, and just think of that, you know. And yeah, so hopefully this wasn't too long. I was trying to make it short, but I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope that you all learned from this, and I hope it helps you. And if it doesn't, you know, feel free to comment down below and share any tips that you have that could help college students or even high school students. But yeah, have a beautiful day, and I'll see you until next time.